wise, state wise, and actually locally you can access block and village level as well.
I didn't hear the question though. What was your question?
I just wanted to understand what the meaning of literacy rate is. I
Yeah,
mean, what
how do
is
you
the-
define literacy,
What
right?
is the numerator? Because for children, it would be different than adults, right? The young girls going to school, are they going to school and dropping out? You know, if you do a cross-sectional kind of study.
Government of India defines literacy as one who can read and write, which can be somebody gone to school for a year and who can barely write or barely read will be considered literate in the definition by the definition of government, which I have used here.
The data you're using is from census?
It is from census, and then we have also done at village level. We have done survey.
Okay, so in the census, in the government of India census, they ask you what's your name, what's your address. Can you write that down? And if you can do that much, then they take you off as literate.
So that begs the question,
In
what is your
So
objective?
do you have to prove to them you can write, or just whatever?
I'm not sure about how formally this is done, but that's one of the things.
Because, if you're going to assess how effective you are, I think you would need a little more detail about young girls being sent to school for 2 years and then being pulled out in fifth
Yeah,
grade or
there is a
whatever.
very high dropout rate among girls. That's true, and that is also true for Dalit and other marginalized group. But here, when we refer to literacy, definitely that's not our objective to just achieve literacy or just to make everyone literate. That's not our objective. Our objective is to ensure that every child goes to school, completes education, and actually we are working on improving quality of education, because most of government schools we have under Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Now we have developed a lot of infrastructure in villages, and we do have schools. Still in India it's difficult to define a school, because it can be under a tree, it can be with a proper building, it can be with and without a student. These are the realities in many areas. Thankfully, due to this Education for All or Sarv Shiksha program, we have schools. But the now challenge is that how to send these kids to school, because many people don't send their girls as opposed to boys. Boys literacy rate is slightly higher than girls literacy rate, and especially in marginalized communities, in the Dalit community and other minority communities. Girls don't go to school. So our objective is to send every kid to school, to ensure that every kid is going to school and gets proper and quality education. That's what we are trying to do.
Over what area? How many children, how many blocks or
Actually,
individuals do you intend to provide adequate education for?
First thing, let me clarify it here in the beginning itself that we are not providing education. We are working as an organization, working with community, encouraging them to send their kids. Then we are working with school teachers, we are working with the education department to ensure that all teachers are coming right time, they are providing good education. We are also in the process of giving training to these teachers. So we are not providing education. We are just an organization trying to fix things which are not in good shape. And we have chosen 2 blocks of Bahraich district, Chittora and Risia. These 2 blocks have a very low literacy rate, very poor education. And they have concentration of population, especially marginalized community, Dalits and Muslims. And we are more specifically trying to focus on girls' education, because that's worst part in entire education.
Sorry, what was the other name of the block?
Chittora
Chittora
and Risia, RISIA.
So are there enough schools to cover the population of these 2 blocks?
I think I will say, in some villages there are problems. I mean, kids have to walk for almost a mile or a mile and a half to go to school. But it is not that bad actually. Infrastructure is available.
Is there?
I mean, now in most of the villages we have a school, at least building. Yeah.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, like, what sort of monitoring system, like, do you have any sort of formal monitoring mechanism where you're, like, talking about, like, teachers' performance, like, have they come, like, do you have some formal means of that, or are you still growing capacity in that area right now?
Actually, we have just started a year and a half back, and initially our objective was to reach to community and talk to them, and to hear what are the issues, and we collected a lot of information. We have done a lot of documentation work, and now we are moving in second phase. So in second phase, we are this July we are working in entire 2 blocks. We are working to ensure that every kid more than 4 years of age is enrolled in a school. So enrollment is first priority, and then second thing is we want to through volunteers, and we are a very small organization, and we have not done any fundraising. We have not collected fund outside community. So it is basically 4 and 5 professionals like me. We are putting a little bit of money, and then we are trying to find resources within the community. So we have limitations in that terms, but we are fine. Actually, we will be able to monitor through our volunteers. We have 2 volunteers in each village, and we are hoping that we will get enough feedback from them, and every month we have briefings, meetings with these volunteers, and we are also trying to help them in understanding entire process, and then we definitely plan to establish a mechanism so we can actually monitor and document.
So the challenge, I guess, would be later on, I mean, in terms of how do you enforce and how do you keep them accountable, right? Like, how do you keep the government, like, how do you monitor, like, with health, I guess, through this rural health monitoring system, like, there's somewhat of monitoring mechanism that's enforced by the government also. So, I guess the challenge would be in terms of enforcing accountability.
Yes, definitely, and for that purpose, actually, we are hiring 2 people in, full-time people who will be paid, who are locally available, and who will actually be responsible. I mean, each one responsible for 1 block, and then he is working with volunteers, and we are also trying to, find the ways so we can develop a proper mechanism to not only to start, but to maintain this pace. Yeah.
The government also has superintendents, right?
Yes, there are education superintendents. I mean, every
Yeah.
district has BSA in UP, which is Basic Shiksha Adhikari,
Mm-hmm.
and they are supposed to be responsible for these things. I mean,
Yeah.
it was not our job, and since they somehow, because of bureaucracy or other reasons, they are not able to do that. So that's why we are, trying to help government officials and community both. So we are in touch with these district education officials. I'm also working with actually Primary School Teachers Association of the district, and I have proposed that every year we give award to 5 best teachers, just to encourage them. I want to invite these teachers. We are planning sometime November or December. We will have a conference, 1-day conference of primary school teachers of the district, and in that meeting, I want to give them a message that how important they are for the community, how important their role is in not only building a local community, people in the villages, but also in the nation building actually. Because unfortunately, what is happening is most people are very critical of these primary school teachers, and there is a very negative energy going on there. So instead of blaming them for what is happening there, I want to engage them. We want to engage them, and we want to just make them realize that they need to fix this problem, and instead of blaming them, engaging them, and telling them that I mean, in Indian culture, teachers have so much respect, and actually we can revive that, and at least I'm hoping that if we have 600 plus teachers, then if 60 teachers start working properly, then even then we will have huge impact. And by engagement, I think we should be able to improve the scenario. That's our idea, and we are planning for that in November or December.
Steve, you go.
Go ahead.
Okay. I've heard a lot of debates between when people say children are school dropouts, especially with girls. So there's debate between, are the reasons mostly cultural or the economical or the social? In your experience, what are, I'm sure there are a combination of reasons in every case, but what are the most difficult to overcome, and what have you found some effective ways of overcoming some of these?
We are actually struggling with these things, finding answers. I mean, the most, I think, in this area, I can speak because, I have been to every village, and, I've been talking to volunteers and community members.
Just striking back, so you're taking over, you're overseeing 200 villages?
No, 100 villages, 97 villages basically. Yeah. So, mostly, there is it is definitely gender bias. Daughters don't matter that much in their lives. I mean, they are to be married off, and they don't want to send their kids to school, especially daughters. So I will say it is a more cultural or social reason. I mean, there is a school in the village. I mean, and in these days, education is free, especially primary education in government schools. So you don't have to invest, and then midday meal is available. It is an incentive in one way. But unfortunately, what is happening is when girls, first thing is they are not interested in sending these girls, and when they send these girls to school, I mean, they should be able to write a letter or something like that. After 2, 3, 4 years of school, they think that girl is growing. I mean, she's at 10 or 11. They think that it's not good to send her with boys, and there will be issues and things like that. So this is the biggest challenge, I will say, and it can be done through sensitization, through education. I mean, that this is the only way. There is no other way. I mean, we cannot provide any extra incentive or benefit as an organization. There are some incentives by government itself, and we just need to connect these things, and we need to educate people that actually girls' education is as important as boys' or sons' education.
Are the government incentives working?
Yeah, I mean, government incentive. I mean, again, this is the
You
challenge.
read in the papers like Haryana, they're giving bicycles to girls and things. I don't think in the
So in UP they provide books, copies.
Why don't they think about making girls only school if that is the major concern of parents?
Yeah, but it will be a major policy decision, and it will be hard. I mean, even in Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, they have been able to put this money through, which has come from World Bank and other agencies, and there is a lot of tension between state government and federal government, and there is no clarity that whether these schools will be, supported by federal government anymore, or they will cut down the funding. So it will be. I don't see any possibility of creating one school for girls in every village, like we have a primary school in almost every village. That will be a huge investment. Yeah.
Also, in the areas where you're working, the people who do end up getting decent education, do they just leave the place, and do they have
People like us,
So yeah, I just want to know if they stay there and help them.
Unfortunately, this area is pretty backward in terms of opportunities. I mean, those who graduate, you might have seen the picture of the college, postgraduate college is there, and Actually, if you do BA or BCom from that college, you will end up working in a good company as a salesman or at maybe a hosiery shop, or these kind of jobs are available. There is no industry. And then there are very few jobs in government offices, and it's very competitive. So most people actually, they end up just staying back, or they go to Delhi or Mumbai or do other stuff.
And the teachers in the school, they are
Locally, yeah. I mean, they are actually at the selection process is that you will be selected for the district, and most of people actually work in their own block. So that's good and bad both actually. In some cases, we have noticed that they have very good relation. They develop good relation with village head, who is Pradhan or Sarpanch, and then nobody can complain, and people are not really willing to complain. I mean, it is unfortunate that in India, especially in rural area, people don't want to burn relationships, because everybody is connected, everybody is part of the village. So they think that if I complain against a school teacher, it will strain relationship. So we are working on that, and we are making people aware that it is their responsibility. They are getting good salary. Jalahan?
No, I didn't know that is first.
Rupal, Pavan, George.
So the video was great. I think it really captured like what you're doing and summarized it really well. I don't know if you mentioned in the video, but how long have you been, like when did this organization start? And then you also mentioned, sorry, I have a few questions. I know you mentioned you're from there, and you mentioned there are other 4 or 5 other staff members. Are they also from there? Just to get an idea of.
Yeah. We studied in the same college in that area.
The college that you mentioned?
Yeah. So we studied together, and I think 5 of us are doing very well. I mean, 2 of us are bankers and good jobs, and then I'm also doing fine. And then there are 2 businessmen actually. They are doing their business there.
So, sorry, and the other question is, so do you do this full time, or is this like, and this is part time obviously, like this is a volunteer?
Actually, I have a full-time job. So
Okay,
this
so all
is
of you
something we have initiated, and we want to develop it and give it to local people and those who are available, those who are there. I mean, I have limitations. I cannot devote a lot of time. I need to run my family, and
So you mentioned a few of the things. Sorry, let me rephrase. The lack of education or the lack of literacy, right, is typically a multifaceted problem in the sense that there are a bunch of contributing factors towards this particular issue, right? So in this case, you've already mentioned the gender bias. You've mentioned the fact that some of them are very poor and they can't afford. But there are also other issues such as the infrastructure, which in terms of buildings and stuff may exist, but how do you enforce, like what Vinay was saying, how do you enforce attendance, how do you enforce quality materials and stuff? So I'm just trying to get a sense for, in all these with all these different facets that contribute to this particular issue, what are the ones that you are focusing on? And you already mentioned some of them, as in getting enrollment is the primary focus for you. But assuming you do convince some other people to send their kids to school, what are the other things that you're looking at in terms of priorities? Which are the ones that you're looking at first?
If I can count them and share with you, enrollment is first thing, as I mentioned, and second thing is retention in the school, and then third thing is maintaining quality of education and helping teachers, because we have done a small survey among teachers, and we have found that most of them need training in actually English, science, mathematics, and these are critical subjects. I mean, in terms of school education, especially in India. So we need to find a partner who can help us in arranging maybe 4 or 5 days training for these school teachers. And then we are working on policy issue as well. We are working closely with district education office, And at the state level, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, we have not done much, but we plan to work, coordinate with them as well. Because then only we will be able to, see real impact or improve overall situation. And one thing was, some of my friends actually, they warned me that, if we have this caravan going to villages every year in the summer, and then, in July we are, campaigning for, we have enrollment drives in these villages. After maybe a couple of years, people will get tired and they will say, okay, stop it. I mean, we don't see any impact. I mean, we don't see what organization has done in 2-3 years. I mean, because they might not understand this increased enrollment or increased retention.
Mm-hmm.
So we are planning that, we will have a youth resource center. And we have started working on that, and we are collecting, CVs of people who are in the college or who have done undergraduate degree, and then helping them, doing CV surgeries and putting them on monster.com or naukri.com, and helping them in getting small jobs even. And we are planning to recruit 20 undergraduates in July, and we will give them English speaking training. And I know that call center job might not be the best option, and I'm not in favor, but where people are just getting 3,000 or 4,000 rupees job after doing undergraduate degree, you can imagine many people would not like to send their kids to school or college, I mean, in that kind of scenario. So what we are trying to do is, we will select 20 college students, we will teach them English for 6 months, and in 3 months, and it will be campus facility, they will live there in that. We have a house actually, one of my friend has a house, big house, and they will live there, they will be taught English, and then we are also planning to liaison with call centers or these agencies, and if they get a job of 10 or 12,000 rupees in Gurgaon, Noida, or Lucknow, or anywhere, I mean, it will make a lot of difference. And if we have 20 kids from 20 villages, the message will go to these villages that in fact there is incentive. When I interact with people and I say that I am from this village, I studied here, I studied in these schools, and if I can become a professor in an American college, then why can't you? I mean, maybe you can do much better. I was not the best student in the village. I was mediocre, and if I can do it, you can do it. But it's difficult for them to relate. Sure. Because they think that I was privileged. My parents had maybe more land than them, and but if these people who we trained for 9 months, and they go back with the news that they got a job, and if their economic status changes a little bit, then I think they will accept what we say. It is also a question of credibility for the organization, because every year you go, people wearing jeans, kurta or t-shirt, going to village and saying that education is very important, and send every kid to a school, might not be a very attractive idea for many people for listening every year, the same thing. But when we do something real, then we are hoping that it will have a good impact.
So just to follow up on that really quickly, sir. Okay, no, maybe I'll ask you later. Sorry, John.
So the project is too early for us to have a real definitive fix on your aspirations are to be noted and lauded, praised, but the how to get there and to accomplish your goals is something else. Well, it brings me to ask, if you have somebody in charge who has comfort level and professional training in education, which I personally do not, especially in the Indian context, to guide this project on a full-time basis locally. You mentioned 2 bankers and 2 businessmen and so on. But I would assume from your remarks that they are not full-time personnel. Well, there are others locally who are, but are they trained to both assess and oversee educational development and to work effectively with government schools? Mainly concerned about the continuity issue. Who's providing it locally? Who's dedicated to this project on site and will be there for an indefinite period of time and has an appropriate educational background to do the job? The other allied issue I have is whether you are able to do a baseline survey of what the pluses and minuses are in the educational system in these blocks. We know the literacy level is low, we know that young women are seriously disadvantaged, but in fact the education in being, what does it enable the graduates of the 8th form to do? What proportion of them are able to advance to high school or to get meaningful jobs and so on? What is the level of literacy? What are the practical skills gained? Has this kind of a survey been done? So basically, in summary, I'm asking two questions. Who's going to be on site? Who has the appropriate experience and educational background to be able to lead this project for some time to come, measured in years, not months? And secondly, what is the challenge specifically in these schools? What are the pluses and the minuses as of the present? Has a baseline survey been done? And what have you learned? Also, the qualifications of the teachers in being is part of that.
So, it was a huge issue. I mean, who will be, because, all of us are professionals and we have our own responsibility. We can put some money, some time, but, we are not available all the time to implement all these things. That was a